Ray, it's awesome to connect with you. We won't go into the backstory. All I will say is that it's been 20-something years
yeah,
since we last saw each other at university, and we've had whole lives between that time. And for some reason, some life energy, this intention to the world, we are back. I've asked you to come and be on the 1 Minute Mentor to, hopefully share some of that well-earned knowledge that you've picked up, that you've gained, that you've acquired over these years. And I guess to do that through the prism of us reconnecting, but also just through a bit of free flow conversation. But before I guess we go in, can you please introduce yourself to people watching today so we get a good gauge of who you are?
Yeah, kia ora koutou. Man, wicked to reconnect. I would also like to say we didn't do a lot with each other really, but the energies were always there, the positivity. We just recalled a very funny story that I remember of, but yeah, feel very grateful to be in your space and be able to have a kōrero and bring value to your community and beyond. Yeah, born and bred in Tokoroa. I am of Māori and Pākehā descent. I am from Ngāti Raukawa. My hapu is Ngāti Ahuru, and spent a lot of time in my koro's presence, so speaking is a very natural thing to me. He was a beautiful reo speaker on the pai, and his blood courses through me in that desire to engage through kōrero. So I love that part. I am a father of three. I have an older son, Cortez, who turns 26 this year in March. And I have two beautiful daughters, Marlo and Frankie, with my wife, Courtney. And Courtney and I have been married 15 years this May. And she is my absolute joy, as well as my beautiful children. It is my number one job. It is the job that I spend the most time setting goals on, that I spend the most time reflecting on, and the most time celebrating in the smallest ways possible. We are engaged in multiple businesses, but our core business right now is early childhood education. Future focus early learning is our business. We've got 5 centres down in Papamoa. We've been doing it since 2019, but I am a qualified primary school teacher. I loved my career in teaching, loved working with children, did not like so many adults who made poor decisions, I believe, in successive governments. I don't believe this is a red or blue thing. I just believe that people make bad decisions for children, and I could either continue to be part of that or go out and actually build influence in greater ways. And that's the choice I made. But my career was amazing. Taught here, overseas, Decile 1, Decile 10, taught in the Middle East, had a stint as school principal a long time ago. And I'm continuing to learn more and more and more about the needs of children, their whānau, and ultimately what environments help teachers thrive.
That's beautiful, bro. I guess mentor tip 1, did I just hear you kind of put on the hierarchy ladder family?
Number 1.
Yeah, because I don't know if that's obvious to people who maybe identify with an entrepreneur within. And I guess could you just help me understand how you arrived at that very bold but very logical conclusion?
Love my mum and dad. They did not have a great, happy marriage. I believe they did the best that they could. I do. I truly do. I don't hold any. They're not together anymore, but they are both actually very happy individually. But that was probably my first real steer into that space. Interestingly, because I had my son very young, I didn't have many relationships because you couldn't get to 19 and meet a girl and be, oh, P.S., you're also, what? So that was kind of something I kind of steered away from. But very lucky, met Courtney in that space. I've always been a pretty avid reader, but I used to read like Harry Potter and all this. Like I was reading a lot of fiction, that sort of stuff when I was younger. History I loved. But when we got married, the first book I ever picked up to improve myself was on marriage. It was, I can't remember exactly, by Ian Grant. It was 7 Habits or something along those lines of, I can't remember exactly.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
No, it was about marriage, bro. It was something in that realm, but it was a marriage book.
Well, it'll come to you. We'll just jot
it will
that
come
down.
to me.
Ian Grant, is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's who had written it. But then the second book was Dan Goleman's Emotional Intelligence, because I realized I still carried a temper and a fly off the handle and passion space, and still carried a lot of emotion, where my mind would run away and I didn't have a lot of peace. There was a lot more chaos than there was peace. And I remember that, and that stands out to me as I was actually looking to make sure that my marriage didn't implode because of my actions. It put a lot of pressure on me, I must admit, but that's why I hold that and it is my marriage. That's number one. The best example I can give my children is a strong marriage, and considering I had Cortez without being in a wedlock or out of wedlock, and we were children. I was 16, so he didn't come from an environment with a healthy relationship. I did my best as a teenage father, but I had to make some choices. So, yeah. My marriage is number one. It is the first goal I set every year. It is the first goal that I always revisit. And I'm really lucky in the fact that Courtney also does a lot of that herself as well. And we talked about that earlier. It's like that glue. You want to continue to have a real solid bond so that as you stretch, when you're learning and growing, it still brings you back and doesn't snap or stay loose and stringy. Yeah. Hopefully it just continues to bring you back. So put it this way, bro, like I'm driving up here and I'm driving for 10 minutes and I ring her and we talk for 30 minutes. Just because that's the cool thing. Or I'm out walking in the morning and we just get on the phone and yarn.
That's awesome. What was, if you can distill it down, if possible, if not, people can go out and read those books. They can find the Ian Grant, the Dan Goleman. Dan Goleman,
yeah.
But in that emotional intelligence, what was the takeaway is if we just had you for 30 seconds?
We are in charge of our own emotions. We get to choose the emotions we display. When we realize that it is a choice, then we can exhibit control.
And can you share how you've used it? Is there a memory? You know how you remember things from 20 years ago?
Yeah, anger and violence.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that anger is a form of anxiety. And that really resonated with me because that's when my anger came out, was in moments of self-worth not being present.
Interesting.
Or being induced in with alcohol, or where I was like protection mode, or, and when I made peace with the fact that it is a form of anxiety, that I suffer from anxiety, again, it gave me an opportunity to actually take back control of understanding.
Right.
Oh, and I did a lot of work on that.
Yes.
Like I went to, there's an awesome program in Hamilton, HAPE, Hamilton Abuse Intervention Program, but I enrolled in that because there was nothing. And I sat in a room with a whole big group of men who had come from far worse situations than I had, but it gave me some scope on power and control and understanding the psyche behind a lot of emotion and why we react that way. So I sought that sort of situation out, but ultimately I have not exhibited violence in a long, long time, which is the goal, essentially. And also, I still battle with getting pissed off about things, excuse my language, but I'm nowhere near to the intensities and volumes.
Because you're understanding maybe what's happening, there's emotional things being triggered. Like I was just thinking when you were talking, someone might be in the best way possible trying to give you feedback, and you're registering that as a challenge, the walls go up, something like that.
We've got examples I think the only person I really do that with is my wife.
Yeah. Well, they see all of us, right?
Bless her. I'm pretty good with our team, and there's been times still where I've let myself down. My reaction's been really poor, and I have to live with those situations. I forgive myself for those and continue to grow and learn from them. But yes, the walls going up, the defensiveness, I think a lot of it was, well, no, I don't think. I actually know that it was tied to self-worth and my feeling threatened that maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I don't belong in this marriage that's really happy and stable. Like I remember sharing with Courtney, drinking with her parents a bit when we first got together, and I remember saying to her, like, hey, how come your parents don't fight when they're drinking? She's like, what? I was like, do they not fight? She's like, no. I was like, what? That was weird.
Yeah.
We've been married 15 years this May. I've never seen them fight on the booze. Mm-hmm. But that was my North Star when it came to that. It was so, I've just got far better preventative measures in play.
Yep.
Way more peace in my mind, a lot higher self-worth, and I work hard at it.
Quick story that triggered in my mind, positive trigger, when you talked about parents. My wife's German, so when I went over there to meet her parents, they were talking, and I could hear, sound like James Bond movie. I was like, shit, what are they fighting about? And she's like, they're talking about going for a walk.
It is a harsh language, but
it's a harsh language. Lots of yeah, no, that's funny. I just want to, I guess, switch into a slightly different topic because I have you for like an hour, and I probably should have called it the 1 hour mentor, but 1 minute just sounds more clickbaity to me. I guess I'm keen to dig in, bro. How did you find your place, your spot in this world? And I'm not suggesting it is the final outcome. I'm just saying for many of us, we're searching for where we fit, and it's a mixture of understanding, knowing, luck, guidance. When I'm talking like this, is there things forming in your mind about, I guess, where you find yourself today and how you made sure you ended up there and didn't get carried in some other flow, this other riptide, which, there's a version of the multiverse where you got ripped out in that tide and never came back. You looked into that abyss and didn't come back, but you didn't. You are where you need to be based off the actions that you're putting in place. So I don't know how you're going to answer that, but handing over to you.
I have a good answer because my son and his partner, Credence, and we're all together on Friday. You know what? Cortez, he was born in 1999. I was 16, March 19th, 1999. But he was my first transcending moment of becoming a human that will bring value to the world because I had a little person in front of me that I wanted to serve. I remember distinctly saying, I want my son to grow up being proud of me because there were teenage fathers where I grew up in Tokoroa, lots of them, that were not involved. And that my mum used to say to me, you make your bed, you lie in it. And I think that was the first stage of serving someone outside of myself. And my steps were very deliberate around that, getting university entry, going to uni, succeeding at uni, getting jobs. So that like a teacher, for me, part of the reason I spoke about being a teacher was because I knew I could be a better teacher than other people, but also I knew that when becoming a teacher, I had all the school holidays off and I could be with Cortez. I could leave at 3:00 and go and pick him up. It was those aspects where I realized there's a little person who really relies on me. We're not together with his mum, but I'm part of his life. I want to be part of it. So that's where I started in that space of service. Unfortunately, the other element to it, though, was still trying to prove a lot of people wrong as well. I don't believe I've actually lost that piece of service. I've just lost the piece of having to prove people wrong now. So now, if you think about a cup, if I had a cup half full of serving and a cup half full of, proving people wrong, well, I only get 50% of the cup on the good stuff. I've just got rid of that. So now it's a whole cup of service. Simon Sinek talks about being in service to those that serve others. And Cortez was my first real step into that space to realize I've got a little life here in front of me. and I am part of it, whether I like it or not, and I'm going to make a go of it. So he's my real. We were really reflecting and laughing about it on Friday night, but it was nice for me to tell my now 25-year-old son that he was the catalyst for the success that we experienced today.
What does he make of it?
He is very much like me. He's a very intelligent man. He's a beautiful human. It was interesting. He said to me, "You know what? I carry a lot of impatience with a lot of people, but the only people I feel like I am speaking." He used speaking up to, meaning these are people that, while they're up there, he said is He said I say to my friends, I say that's my dad and my stepmom, which is really cool. But we have been through a lot together, Cortez and I, in his 25, nearly 26 years. We have forgiven each other for things. Him so more than me. He's forgiven a lot more because he's probably had to for some actions we took as kids ourselves. But he's a very balanced human, and I think I certainly know he is very grateful for the relationship that we continue to work on.
Talk to me about channeling energy. I mean, is that even a real thing? It feels we're just in such a weird environment here in Aotearoa and the world where people are like, man, what do you mean energy? I can't see it. I can't touch it, but I know we can all feel it. And I feel like part of the challenge, and that's what I'm keen to get mentorship on for myself and others, is like that North Star. How do you pick something to push towards? Has that kind of been made clear to you as you've got a bit older, as you've started to, I guess, pivot in different things that you've been trying in terms of where to place that energy?
Well, for anyone that's understood anger and being angry, you will understand that you can channel energy. Violence is an easy way to channel energy and actually meet what the violent act is allowing you to do. Is a very quick response back to your psyche. So there's an example of what energy can be.
Right. Easier to understand it in the negative light.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how quickly the most calmest people in the world become so angry when they're in a car and someone cuts them off?
Absolutely.
And the calmest person in the world is, "I'll kill you, what are you doing?" And again, coming back to Simon Sinek, who's someone I have looked for a lot of inspiration to, and he talks to it. He's just like, we don't understand the day they've had. They may be late for the most important meeting of their life. They might be late, which I understood, to picking up their child, and this is the last chance that they get before the court step in and say, "You're not a responsible father, and I'm happy to arrive one car length late." It is easy to epitomize what energy is in a negative light, anger, violence, because we can see it. Go and open your Herald app. I can find you that energy. But the energy that I channel in that space all starts from gratitude. And I know it's a buzzword today, but are we really practicing gratitude? Do you still cry when you watch Mighty Joe Young and he falls off that Ferris wheel and you think, "Oh no, he's dying," Do you still, when we fly into like Rarotonga, which is a place I love, I have a bit of a connection with, I cry. We took our whānau up to Matarangi in the holidays. Never been up there. I cry because there's an energy of me being able to provide for my children what we didn't get. And when you start the morning walk around the streets of Papamoa or wherever we are, and hearing the ocean and hearing birds, and if people drive past you but you're laughing to yourself about something silly that's gone on, like games we did at university or whatever, those sorts of you've got to be open and aware to those energies in that positive light too. And I think I love saying hello to people. Hello, good morning, like the girl at the coffee shop, right? Great energy there. That's great energy.
Yeah.
But it's a shock for people today, right? Like, what you don't know me. So we have a chance to actually deal out that energy too. I walk around and smile. Just walk around and smile like this.
Mm.
It's amazing how people's body language changes.
Yeah.
You know, I'll listen to something on my headphones when I'm walking around just with a big smile on my face. It changes the tone of how people approach you. So energy in and energy out it is transactional in nature with your own brain and heart and soul. It's just, I think, helping people understand that we get to again choose the energies we give out is the real key to unlocking that in the world.
I wonder if there's a value in the energy too, because I guess what I'm alluding to is when I'm in a podcast or, filming somebody, I almost feel like I hold energy for them so that they can focus on this gigantic task of just being them,
Yes.
And if you can see, we're getting into some esoteric, but let's stay there. That's that human connection we talk about. That's that, it can be used for the manipulation. It can also be used for empowerment. And it's a real fine line, eh?
Yeah, it is a fine line.
And it's a game built on trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if, you've harnessed it because now you're pushing forward into territories that, you're mapping. And it's so beautiful, bro, because I guess my favorite thing about it is many of us will relate to this idea of kind of follow the path that's being laid out. But I love it that you're coming here, and we've talked an hour before we started recording about, I guess the path you're taking is one built on trust, built on relationships, built on courage, built on using the positive energy because the negative energy. And I feel like people can relate to that.
Yes.
As opposed to just like you went to Harvard, you have a great network, you come from money. That's one rubric. But the other one is like, and I guess that's what I'd really like to get as the takeaway today is like, man, how can someone watch that? Take the firmware you're sending through, update it to them, and start implementing that. Otherwise, life seems really unfair to me. Because if it really is that you're just happen to be built that way,
then what's my fate?
Yeah. And maybe that is like an unpopular truth that we have to grapple with anyway. Knowing that might be okay. Why are some people tall and short and big and thin? And I don't know. That's not obvious to me that, well, maybe it is obvious. We are all different. Your job is to find your difference and how to somehow attach that to something.
Well, if we dig into that as a construct, tall, short, fast, slow, that's the game we've been enrolled in. That's the game we're playing. But once we understand the kind of boundaries and rules of the game and what that allows me to do, there's no use being, a 7'5". In people's eyes, they're like, what's the first thing they would have said about someone who's your height? You should be playing rugby. But maybe I'm very intelligent and you don't know I might be a Nobel scholar. Those are, I think when we try to unpack a lot of that stuff is trying to help people understand that what race you're starting does not define you at all, and you don't need to look at things and say, oh man, I wish, because actually it just takes the light off what your gifts are. And a lot of the world, I believe, they don't truly discover their gifts. That's sad.
That might be the saddest thing.
We're all God-given in some ways, in many ways for lots of people, because it seems like that, because they lean into their gifts. Like I spoke about earlier, my koro and my karawa, my whānau's blood courses through my body. My ability to speak is a gift that I have leaned into that has brought great value to myself personally, to tell stories, to tie back into not just my story, but actually my ancestors and what they did to pass on tradition and values and the ways of being and actually keep alive too. Stay alive. Stay away from that cave over there because there's a big animal in there that will kill you. It's those sorts of things that when we talk through the cards we've been dealt, having the ability to see them and then think, right, I've got a shot at winning here. You might not win. And I think that's the other part to this. If we're mentoring people, you might not win. That's okay. That's okay.
Well, why is that okay? Is it because we haven't properly defined the idea of failure? Do people actually think failure is the end image? I can't afford anything. I now have to go and ask for help. Maybe not seeing that it's the mini failures that you should be analyzing too. I only thought about that the other day, that I think of failure as I'm going to lose the property, whereas a failure might be, you're not crunching your data properly. You're not trying to upskill your knowledge of payroll, and I guess, what's failure look like to you?
Oh, big question. Good question. I've had lots of failure. And when I think deeply about that, the only failure that I still am yet to experience is not getting back up from something. The day that I don't get back up, I believe in my own mind, is when people are farewelling me at my tangi. Again, like I remember becoming a teenage father, finding out that Rana was pregnant and that we were going to be having a child and we weren't together, and going home and telling my mum and dad, and my mum saying, "You've ruined our lives." I felt like a failure. Having teachers say, "Oh, Raymond, you're another statistic."
Pulling out the full name.
Raymond. Yes, Raymond. And that doesn't make me emotional today. It used to. But that was certainly windows of failure, that at that time. But man, again, I committed to this decision and I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm going to make sure that this boy is proud of me. And I've got back up in those instances all the time. We know lots of the brothers that have not got back up, right?
Yeah.
We say goodbye to 600 plus people a year in that space.
Yeah.
That do not get back up. So I've certainly experienced some very hard failures that I would not like people. I would never wish upon people. But I have worked hard on my desire to just get back up. Knock down 7, get up 8.
And I guess just for context, can you share a time where you've got back up? I mean, you've been sharing that about, I guess for you, when those teachers said you held on to that, you became an energy. I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yes.
And that will set you on a path. But, let's say it's a business thing. It hasn't gone well. What does that next day look like, where it's like, all right, I'm going to get back up? And when you say that and you give that intention out there, do things start popping in your mind about what to do next?
Yeah, so our gym's a good example, CrossFit MCR, which is now Propolis, which is in Epsom, still going, which is awesome. I'm really proud of that. But MCR stood for Marlo, Courtney and Ray. It wasn't going well, but there was heaps of value being delivered. People loved being part of our community. People were getting stronger. I was coaching a really strong weightlifting team. I was my own foray into coaching. I'd been picked as a coach for New Zealand, and I'd qualified kids for New Zealand teams and had record holders, but the business wasn't going well, and my father-in-law has done well in business, and I looked up to him, and I did not want to let him down and let his daughter down. And we had Marlo at that time, and she was just little, and all these sorts of things, bro. And then I remember him ringing me and saying, "Ray, this is just a very expensive habit, and like hobby, and you could have made more money teaching. And I was like, yeah, I know, we'll get there, blah, blah, blah. And then I just remember him saying, Ray, do you want to be the next Les Mills? And I was like, immediately, I was like, no. He's like, then what are you doing? And that was it. And then Courtney rang and she was like, you're never home. You're out all the time at this gym. It's not like you're out partying. You're just at this gym all the time. And like we our marriage is falling over. You realize that, And then, yeah, we made the decision to sell it, managed to find a buyer, lost money, lost $100K or so, probably a little bit more, let alone lost some years in our marriage where we were really battling. We had Frankie by then, and we made a conscious decision around never building something that would put our marriage in jeopardy like that. That was the conscious decisions. Made a very conscious decision about being part of each other's life in that space, and that's why today, for Future Focus and our other business ventures, Courtney and I work hand in hand. We work together hand in hand, and that's something I'm really proud of. That is the bounce back. That is the learning. That is the lesson carried. And don't get me wrong, like I'd love to say it's been roses, but we have had to evolve and grow. There's that bond again. But yeah, that's a very stark lesson in business. That was a very expensive MBA, I must admit. It taught me everything about what not to do when running a business. Yeah, but it was risky, but thankfully we got through, bro.
And some of the positive things that came out of it, because you were up against the wall with the gym. So what are some of the practices that you brought into, the future businesses?
Well, like I was talking to you earlier, it was really interesting because I never ran my classrooms like I ran that gym. My classrooms were very free-flowing. I was never the one that was looking at the kids saying, hey, kids, you're the empty vessel, and I'm going to come in every day and fill you up with all this knowledge. I carried, especially when I worked in South Auckland, worked at bit of a shout-out to Manarewa Intermediate and the team out there, I was like, my job's to help you cope in the world. And I'm going to pressure you and I'm going to put stress on you. And I'm going to run this a little bit different. How so? I'm going to schedule times that you can come and see me. These are the times you will absolutely see me. These are the times I'm going to do this. I'm going to put some responsibility on you here. I'm going to tell you, no, what do you think? What do you think? I'm not going to give you answers. All this, it was crazy because that's how my classrooms were run like that. Then I went into a business and went against everything that I had so much success in running, even my principalship, bro. I ran it like that. Christine, who was one of our teachers, she's German as well, actually, came back last year for a visit. It's so awesome to hear 15 years later for someone to say she's raised the greatest leader I've ever had. Interestingly, when I went into that business, I just threw everything out the window because I didn't understand profit and loss, cash flow, scale. I didn't understand any of the basic concepts of just managing property rates, all that sort of stuff. All I was like, cool, build a gym, get 200 members, this is your income, boom, that's it, we're away. Actually, this is just not how it works. So I had to, again, drop my ego around that. So, but those are the positives because it gave me a sharp lesson in what I needed to do to actually know and understand business. The second thing is that the lessons that it taught me is around, I always talk to, when I mentor people in the space of business, stick to your alleyway, man. Walk down the alleyway. What is that? Because as a kid, we used to always take alleyways to get to places quicker, right? Or avoid being seen by your parents or the teachers or,
have a sneaky diary.
Walk your alleyway. Why is walking your alleyway so important? You know where it goes. You get to understand uniquely during the times of the year. Hey, sometimes during the time of the year, there's grapes available down that alleyway. You got to watch out for the dog up the end because sometimes you'll be walking down in the morning and the damn thing will jump out and give you a fright. You know where the path is a little bit different. You roll your ankle there. You can fit 2 or 3 or 4 bikes down there and rush away. Yeah, you know what I mean? And I talk to people about stick to your alleyway, stick to your alleyway. Get really good at understanding that you can walk through that damn alleyway with your eyes closed And then and only then will you be able to open up and show other people their alleyways and just let them stick to their alleyways. And as a combination, we all get to the beach. We all get there. We all get down to the beach. We all get to the ice cream shop. We all get to school. But you're just walking your own alleyway.
Yeah.
And that's been an important lesson. I'm really good at building environments for people to thrive. That means that I see potential in people that they don't see in themselves. Yep. And I'm very good at bringing it out of them, whether it be through trusting relationships, having hard conversations with people, or, just getting in there and patting them on the back and say, you're doing a bloody good job. If I can help, sing out, otherwise keep going. And that's my alleyway. And I have walked it and walked it and walked it and walked it and walked it. And I've read books even further so that I understand that these flowers now that come out that used to give me hay fever are actually this, and I know that, and there's that they could replace that fence with doing this, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
I've sought out all the knowledge that allows my alleyway experience to be even greater.
Dude, that's awesome. Walk down your alleyway. Yeah.
I relate that too because Kiwi kids walk alleyways, bro.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And some, they were kind of sacred when you were young.
Yeah, bro.
Because you would know the good ones to walk down.
Yes.
The ones where you were safe and powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yes.
You could build a whole, write your book.
Yeah.
There you go. You've got your worldwide tour. Just flipping it up a little bit. The interesting thing about, I guess I'll relate this to this idea of exit strategy. And I'm just getting my head around these things.
Yeah.
I'm not someone who thinks about exits because I'm quite happy. I always have been. I'm just one of the lucky ones, It's haunted me in other ways where you don't understand the world because you don't understand how that shadow lives. And it's put me in environments that I do not feel comfortable in. And so I've had to learn or back engineer. I guess I'm interested to understand what the exit strategy looks like for you. You're wearing some lovely clothes today, and I wonder if you're putting intention out to the world, and I know you are, but I guess what does, dreaming big, what's the value in that? Why do you do it? How can we do it?
Well, I think we all have an exit strategy one way or another. Life determines when our exit strategy comes into play. So we can make peace with that. But the best thing for me is because Courtney's parents have done extremely well and they have set up their grandchildren. So we carry the kaupapa of you set up your grandkids, it is our job to set up our grandkids. That has been a very strong piece of our kaupapa when involved in business. We don't want to create competitiveness between our children as well. I don't want them to compete. In fact, in LinkedIn the other day, I put up a little note that my daughter had written about cleaning the plate. Hi, Dad, it was me, Frankie. I cleaned the plate. Love you. Looking for validation. And I actually put down in that post that is something that I need to work on. She's seeking something there. So when we talk about that, you've set up your grandkids, it is our job, our responsibility to set up our grandkids and beyond if we can, right? Interestingly, the stat I read in 2017-18 was that 7% of Māori in the Bay of Plenty were passing on something of inheritable wealth of a positive value. That's a very small figure. So not debt or, things like that. So then you'd look at it in a monetary space. But as an exit strategy, quite frankly, Courtney and I, if we realize we are not enjoying it anymore, we will look for what it looks like to exit out so that our energies and values that are changing do not inhibit the great value that the business is still continuing to bring despite our attitudes. So we've put, not that we were at this stage, you're better to go early than wait till you're at that point because then you're really in trouble. Because then buildings start deteriorating, value and quality starts deteriorating, all that sort of stuff. We've brought in Ashley, who is far better than us in a whole range of the business acumen needed to continue to grow Future Focus as an entity. And we've done this early. Courtney's parents have modelled in some ways, like Courtney's old man's and her brother have done extremely well but they haven't put in place someone who potentially could take over should something happen to them, where we've made that choice now. Because and it's not, I'm not commenting now on John and them, but what I'm commenting on is we've built something that we're really proud of, and that we believe continues to demand a higher level of energy to bring value to our teaching teams so that they can deliver value for whānau and children. We can't be those people now, because we have other projects that we are determined to build that we believe will change communities and lives of children around the world. That is actually the scale we're thinking at. So now, because we're at that point, we have handed over the reins to someone who is far more capable. That is an exit strategy, although we still own it in entirety, in perpetuity. She is the boss calling majority of the calls on it. That is in itself an exit strategy. You just don't want to lose sight of where your growth and evolution is going to be. There's so many examples of it, right? Kodak, Blockbuster, all these, the famous story of the Netflix owners being in with Blockbuster saying, hey guys, why don't you get us on board? We don't need you. We've got 10,000 stores. You've got nothing. What do you got? Come on. And then, that's not seeing what was coming. So, and I believe that's partly because Blockbuster stopped putting pressure on themselves, so they were pushed into an exit, and the exit was close. You finished. You did. Recently, I'm trying to think of the name of the tutoring company. AI, ChatGPT, has literally ripped billions of dollars, $15 billion off their bottom line margins.
Not
because
Khan, is it?
It was not Khan Academy. It was one of those things. And then obviously the latest one is NVIDIA. NVIDIA losing $1 trillion market cap because someone's come in with a cheaper model. You know what I mean? Like that's, if you're not putting pressure on your business to continue to perform at the levels that it needs to perform to appease the new excitement levels and the levels of expectation, then you're really in trouble.
Yeah.
So one way or another, when I look to those things, I think exit strategy means we've implemented Ashley into the exit space because she's running it now, and that's the strategy that allows the energy that it deserves. That's the respect we have for our leadership council and our teaching team. But also, we know that later on, if we were to exit, actually there's an entity there. Not that we're even thinking about that right now, but yes, there's an entity as a model that's working without the DNA.
Interesting.
And that's certainly a conversation that we've had. Yeah, bro, we literally 2 years ago or so, we just started saying, right, we've got to start watering down our DNA. And that actually wasn't to do with exit strategy. That was to do with, especially myself, when my voice was far too powerful in the room. Like I said, some of our team members will give recommendations and they're taken as recommendations. Ray gives a recommendation. It sounds like a command.
Yeah.
Ray wants me to do that versus, hey, that's not meritocracy. It's not an idea meritocracy. That is a transactional relationship of a parent-child. And I realize that. And often you find founders are often bottlenecks for pressure. And at the bottleneck is where all the pain points really show up.
Well, you mentioned bottlenecks. Let's jump into that. What's been some education points or knowledge onboarding to help relieve bottlenecks? It's something that a mentor I've had for the last couple of years got me to learn about the theory of constraints and the goal and, all these things that when I read it as me, I'm like, man, I didn't even think about this stuff. And the cause and effect and those type of things that actually most people I come into contact with are not processing, are not thinking about. But if you're interested in mentorship and business and trying to do anything on your own terms, it's about that, all of those things. So bottlenecks, I guess, maybe if you could talk about some of the ways you relieve them and some of the onboarding knowledge around that topic.
First, you've got to be aware that you are, or what is the bottleneck. I think, remember, lots of people just buy jobs, bro. Like they buy businesses, but they're just buying a job. They're the bottleneck. I say to some people, they're like, yeah, I've got this business. I'm turning over this amount of money. We're doing this, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, cool. Go for a holiday. Go for a 2-week holiday. Don't take your phone. I can't do that. Why not? You're the bottleneck. Like, if you're not aware that you're the bottleneck, you're in trouble. You're in a lot of trouble, actually. Because that is it. John Maxwell, one of the laws of leadership, irrefutable laws of leadership, is the law of the lid.
Break that down. But before you do, hey, Daniel, I can hear you. Welcome. That's all right. Come take a seat. We're just in the middle of recording. But you're
How are you? How are you?
Daniel, Ray. So take a seat if you want. And okay, live studio audience feed now.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so where were you?
So in the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership, John Maxwell's number one law is the law of the lid. Your people cannot exceed past your lid as a leader. If you are a 3, your people will not be any higher than that. That is the reality. And you will never attract people that are higher because they will quickly pick up that you are a 3. I think adding more relativity to that too is that you tend to move. You don't stay. And further to this is the evidence that Jim Collins gives in Good to Great, where he talks about level 5 leaders, and that these companies were led very remarkably through tough times over extended periods of windows of progress and profit, often beating out major competitors in their wake, and that was through leadership. Now, the reason why I land on that as a bottleneck is because if your acumen in certain aspects and your lid is very low, you are a bottleneck for success and future growth. That's the reality. If we came in just trying to be a childcare group, another childcare group that was just going to fill a centre and then that's it, I disappear and watch my bank account every year go through a phase, then I think my lid would have stayed very low. But what we've done to really remedy that is build a lot of self-awareness into our leadership council. Even that step, bro, we called it our leadership council, not just the leadership team, not the SLT, because as a council, our team and people rely on us to give counsel. That is the aspect. We changed the tone of who we were as a group instead of just being the SLT or the crappy names like that. And in that sense, because we realized that we were the ultimate bottlenecks if we're not growing in certain aspects relevant to what's going on in our individual centers, then we can't hope for newer levels of success every day, year, decade, whatever. So self-awareness is a big key to addressing bottlenecks. The second thing is, and this has actually been a hard-learned lesson in that sense, is that you will find people that won't recognize that they are the lid, and you will lose them. And you've got to be comfortable with that. We don't want to lose anyone. We don't. But we do, because either values stop aligning. Like, for example, when we went from 1 center to 2, people were like, you guys have changed. Oh, you're going to get too big too fast. Oh, you're losing your value. Oh, you forgot about us. Oh, was that their lid or my lid? Well, no, that was their lid. But where I didn't help was I didn't share clarity around the mission. I didn't bring people with us. We were trying to build greater impact in a specific community. So it still gave me lots of work-ons in that space because I'm self-aware. So I apologize to those people for that timing, but I do not apologize for our growth and my growth as a leader. So the bottleneck, self-awareness, and then losing people are 2 aspects. Losing people sometimes is the right thing to absolutely do. That sounds harsh, but, I think about it. Remember when we thought the All Blacks would never survive losing Sean Fitzpatrick? And then Richie McCaw turned up, And
then remember when we thought we wouldn't survive without Richie?
Yeah.
We were right. No.
Yeah. Yes. But I think so then that leads me to the third point, is about how much are you committing to building continual legacy of leadership and growth within your organization? Because they will be the ones that will get through the bottleneck first, and they'll pull it the other side. And in fact, they'll just start creating more bottles for information. And that's been the real one of the real pillars of our success. Is we have let leaders lead, made mistakes, cost lots of money, but now they're phenomenal. So in the short run it hurt, but actually now we're down into our 7th year, not so much.
Yeah. It's going to take a bit for all of us who are listening to unpack all these things, because it's like a whole bachelor of something coming at us in full swing. I guess I just want to loop around to a couple of things, and I want to have it on the record too, because I think it's interesting that you said to me that you've put that intention out there to own the Warriors.
Yes.
Could we say that publicly?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so you already look like you own the Warriors, and that's awesome. And I just want to unpack why the journey you've been on to put such a big dream out, especially in New Zealand, where it can be like, what are you doing that for, bro? Then you just say, walk down the alleyway. Why does your alleyway have to be Go Media Stadium?
Yeah.
And I mean, I just get it, and I don't know why I get it, but I kind of feel like, something into that effect that your dream's got to be big enough for others to dream with.
Yes.
And I think there's something beautiful in that, but I don't know many people that set a big dream.
Yes.
And so talk me through that, why you've reached a point where you're willing to set big dreams.
I remember my first financial goal. I don't know if you remember yours, but I remember mine was to fill up my tank of petrol without having to check my bank account. That was my first financial goal. I remember achieving that financial goal and thinking, is that it? Is that all you set? You idiot. Like, you got that so young. Is that it? Is that the goal you set? And because there was a lot of kōrero in my home about money. I never got to use my parents' card, or they never spoke about mortgage or bill payments or, saving, or it was just like this. All I got told was stay away from debt. That's all I got told. Actually, I've carried that lesson. So that was my first financial goal, and I remember clocking it and then being like, what the, man, I've really cut myself short here, because I've got a lot of life, or life's finishing for me. So that was one real big thing. Then I had to actually make peace with people who were wealthy, not make peace with physical people, but with that, and understanding that they have built that by bringing value to the marketplace. I think that's a very important lesson in that. Now, we spoke about it earlier. Jim Rohn, one of my favorite people, he's passed away now. You can find all his lectures on YouTube. One thing he talks about is, if you want an above average income, you must be an above average person. You must deliver above average results. You must be an above average value bringer to your communities and to the people around you. And that will allow you to do that. I have also carried the belief that if you're doing good things, you should deserve to earn good money, great things, great money, incredible things, incredible money. The alignment with the Warriors is around, and a purchase of a sports team actually is around Gary Vee, who I know both you and I follow in that space, and his one is around the Jets. And I remember hearing him years ago talking about it, because actually, I want to build companies that allow me to do that. I remember when his V friends really went through that, boom, it blew up, and then all of a sudden it really was realized. But me putting out to the world about my desire to want to own the Warriors one day, is because I know I have a skill set that I could bring as an owner that will continue to allow the people like Cameron George and things like that to actually do what they need to do. Because the ultimate thing is, like us, we don't have a great business if we don't build environments for our teachers to thrive. Who do the Warriors need to thrive? The coaching team and the players. It is no different to our model. Nothing. And my role has to be still walk down alleyways, of continue to build partnerships with great brands, of finding more opportunities for funding and development to bring value to those brands and those markets and those people in that situation. That's all. I do that today. So I'm actually practicing being the Warriors owner today. There's one thing I'll change. I will not have a car park that's the first car park right outside the office. That will not be my car park when I own the Warriors or when we own the Warriors. That's something I will change because actually I don't need my own car park. In fact, I would rather give it to the man of the match. It'd be great to see the man of the match who gets to come in and park right there, and we get to all celebrate and acknowledge him. That's probably one thing that I would pick up on in that space. And also in that fact, when I talk about ownership of the Warriors, it's continuing to bring value to the communities that we serve. Warriors fans are very passionate people like myself. That's why I have thousands of dollars of Warriors kit. But every year, every game, they have an opportunity to lose me. Right? Every day I have an opportunity to lose a teacher. I can walk in and do some stupid dickhead thing and they're gone. And that's the balance, right? That's the balance. And I think through a lot of that stuff. I think through that. Owning the Warriors is not going to challenge me in any way on what I'm currently doing today. I'm just practicing it in those realms, and we're expanding into other areas. I think it's a natural synergy. But also, you've got to set big, scary goals.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I say 100%, but I'm coming to grips with that.
Yep.
And hearing you kind of unpack that makes sense, because there's those other things that start formulating. You know, when you're talking about owning the Warriors, I'm like, man, why is the food so expensive? Yeah. And then it triggers another thought that, you know, I heard is it Mark Cuban, you know, that dude? And he's talking about, dude, you don't own a basketball team. I watch so much Shark Tank, bro. Absolutely. He's talking about you don't own a basketball team, you own entertainment.
Yes.
And so he made the food cheaper. And I'm like, if Costco can make a $1 hot dog, maybe so can the stadiums, you know, and all of a sudden, because that's the single biggest thing I hear about why people don't go to games. It's like the piss is expensive and the food's really expensive and it already cost me a lot to get here. However, the Warriors don't have that problem because they're winning, putting out a good product, and people want to support that. But doesn't mean you can't still innovate, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm picking up from what you're talking about is constantly a bit better, thinking about it. You love it so much that you just want to keep making it better. And those who don't get a bit lazy and someone else will come and take that piece of pie.
And going back to your point before, if you don't put pressure on your business to continue to perform, you will be exit strategied. That is what will happen. People in business must understand that. If you don't put pressure, so one observation I've got already of Pukekohe, how many barbers are there here? And as I'm walking up the street thinking, I know people who are in barbers. I wonder if we could come up here and making sure we're looking at the EBITDA of those barbers. Could we roll them up, close one of them, bring business to 4 of them, way more intensity? Would it be a real cash cow here that we could take 2 to 3 years to scale up a bit, put in some buying power? We buy all our resources from one account in Pukekohe. We've got all our gels and whatever, and we're the distributor. We're the only distributor here of gels, and you want that certain hairspray and things. Cool, let's do it. Add in a couple of salons. Cool, boom. All of a sudden, we've got a full blown. Now might not be nationwide, but we're Pukekohe wide. We own 4 barbers and 2 hair salons. All of a sudden, we own 70% of the market. Then we look at an exit strategy. We go to Auckland. We go to a big developer and say that, hey, we can bring our brand. Which brand? Oh, we own all of Pukekohe. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Oh, we're building a big mall. Cool. We'd like that. We'd like to get. Can we have this amount of square meterage? Because I know the capital rates that we can fund through there. All that I think through. I'm literally thinking that as I'm driving up from the Hall Street car park. I noticed I drove past 5 barbers. Right.
And what does that say to you? There's a demand here.
Maybe.
Or they wouldn't be open?
I think everyone must be paying, or rent's cheap, or both. Or there's the question I asked. They must be making margins. They must be making margins to stay alive. So that's one thing, certainly. And is there an ability to, if I turned up with a chunk of money relative, like they're earning X amount and I can go another 20% or 2 times over or 1.5 times over and tell them, hey, look, I can give you what you earned last year plus another 50%, 50% on top of that. Would you let me buy your business, or would you let me work you into a position and structure deals so that, hey, I'll keep you on and we'll pay you out over this, and as our profit grows, because we're going to roll them up into that, we can do this and A, B, C, D. So, I just think through those sorts of scenarios as I'm walking around. Then I'm like, cool, there's a couple of salons, and it's actually very tightly knit. Then I'd shut one of them for sure. I'd certainly shut one of them, because then it'll bring more concentration of that. Look for which ones are the most strategic, which has the best parking outside, which has the most profile. Oh, that one's by the coffee club cafe. Cool. My wife can go and have a coffee with the kids while I go in and quickly get a beard shave and a haircut. I was literally thinking that as I just walk around the streets. That's the knowledge I've picked up.
So mentor tip, look around.
Yeah, there's always opportunities, right? And the scale of opportunity is built on what you know and understand and how you would do it. That's what the Warriors appeals to me. Why couldn't I own two teams? Why could I not own the Warriors and the Broncos? Right? Like, that's got to be the question, right? Maybe there's some legislative thing that doesn't allow people to do that. I don't know. I'm just saying. Because the Walton family owns 7 or 8 American sports teams. Is that a conflict of interest when 2 of their sports teams are playing against other, but the same owners? Maybe. They don't care. You know what I mean? And those are the things now. That's where I'm unleashed in a way now. Because I think through all the scenarios, and none of the barriers exist for me anymore. Rolling up a bunch of barbers in Pukekohe is a 5-minute experiment as I'm walking up from behind the optic down there.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that stuff now.
And unleashed is an interesting, good term. You escape the matrix in some ways of this is your boundary.
Yep.
And now you're able to see a lot. And that's the bit that I think is waiting for those bold and brave enough to have a go forward.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't thought of a better way to think about it than forward movement, move forward to something worthwhile moving forward to. And if you take that step, wasn't there that bit in Indiana Jones when he has to believe that there'll be something waiting for him?
Yeah.
And there is, and that's that leap of faith. And I think it's still very difficult. It takes a lot of reprogramming to believe that there'll be something there for you. I believe it to be true because I'm witnessing it.
But you must also make peace that there might not be.
Well, I'm trying to, which is where my mentorship. Yeah.
So that element, what do you mean? I think that's an element that we've got to understand. Like, we have just as much opportunity to succeed as we don't. We must be okay with that. We must be okay with, and you know what? People hate me saying that. They're like, oh man, I'm going to do this and I'm going to go out and do that. And yeah, man, it might fail. And I'm like, yeah, it might fail. And they're like, you don't need to say that. But I'm like, but that's the reality. Get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
It might fail.
Yeah.
When we realize, and I know we're coming back around in a circle, but when we realize around exit strategy, and we're talking back to exit strategy, if you don't put pressure on the business to perform, you will be exit strategied. It will be some wanker from Papamoa walking up saying, right, I'm going to roll up all the barber shops and take 2 of the salons, and then he's going to go and buy the Broncos and the Warriors.
So you're talking in the business realm, but could that apply to life?
Go to your son today, who's 16, who you told me about, and just give him no attention and see what happens. Just do it for 1 hour. Walk in the door. Don't acknowledge him. See what happens.
Yeah.
I guarantee you it won't even take an hour for him to think, something's off here. Go and do that. Yes.
What will that show? Just break that down.
Well, if I took myself as a kid who, in the past, who had serious abandonment issues, that would actually damage me. If my wife walked in and didn't talk to me today, I would like to say I'm really confident that I'd be okay about it. I wouldn't. I'm being honest. Because there's still that element that lives in me that I have to fight with. That would hurt me. Business is the same, man. Like, I'm not saying, we're not giving Future Focus the attention that we can give it. That's why we've put Ashley in there, because she's superior in many ways to us. She's giving the attention. That is what your wife and my wife did for me. Well, me in particular, for me, my wife did that for me that my mum did not do. It is a course replicative of what life gives and does not give. right? Like, and that's the scenario. I'm not encouraging you to go home and do that to your son because,
What's wrong?
Let alone your youngest.
Shit,
Yeah.
what did Ray say? Just
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But I do believe the lessons, all I'm looking for, bro, is I'm just looking for chances to practice the same set of skills across my whole day. If I wake up and I'm grateful for my children and my wife, and I get in and make some breakfast and we laugh and we turn music on and we sing, and then we don't rush out the door and I'm not hurrying them, and I get to drop them off and drive away beeping, and now my oldest gets concerned that now I'm embarrassing her, but I get to enjoy that, and then I go to work and see that people that really bring light to my life and go and do that and all that sort of situation, and then I can pick my kids up from school and all that sort of stuff, and life is that simple. I just want to practice those same skills across the day. Wake up grateful, bring value and take value, celebrate, tell people that I love them often, walk into the room, celebrate people's success. Is there anything I can do to serve you? Is this a problem we can both sit down and solve? Get my kids. What happened at school? Had this. I want to practice again there. Patience, solving, leadership, listening more, speaking less, connecting with my wife, things like that. Scrap with my littlest because she never wants to go to bed. If I get to practice all that through the day, and I can tip the hats of business and life, then, hey, man, I'm really on the way.
Yeah. And create environments where that happens. Yeah, that's cool. This is a bit unique, but I got a call from somebody that I recorded their question for you to answer.
Oh, fantastic.
So let's have a go at that.
Yes.
Now, this is a unique friend because he worked in broadcast television. And of course, that world has flipped itself into an upside down. So let's see if this works. So, Benji, on the line, what's your query around what would be useful at your stage in life for mentorship? Hit me.
Okay, so I'm 40, recently been done through no choice of mine. However, I'm at a crossroads where I've been in the industry for 20 plus years. Means when you're younger, you are more open to taking on new challenges, and you're willing to take a risk, take a punt to change career paths, or you start at university in one degree, but you may come out of that degree and do something completely different. And later in life, you become more risk adverse because you've got a mortgage, you've got a family, yourself to take care of. But for, like, take AI, for example, it could take over people's roles. And how do you navigate that to maybe pivot to a new career path? That's something I think a mentor could really help. Or maybe they highlight your skill set and present it in a different way that you didn't know that you had, and how you can apply it to other trades. I think it's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Ray earning his money today that I haven't paid him to be here.
I'll double the rate. Okay. So in a QBE, a qualified by experience, I can speak on that. Talked about my principalship. Got to principal at 26, 3.5 years of teaching. Got there. This was it. This is the role. This is where I'm going to make change. The purpose for me becoming a principal was because I believed I could deliver bigger value. The more I went up, more teachers, more opportunity to deliver value through the programs that we run, the beliefs that we hold, the children first programs that really enhance what a community I'm serving, all that sort of stuff, right? Realized 11 months into it, actually, that's not the role that I'm actually doing. All I am is a glorified bookkeeper, and I'm getting behind on a lot of that stuff because actually the stuff I'm choosing to do, which is bring value, meet the needs of the children, enhance the experience that the teachers are having, build a reputation for the school, all that sort of stuff, that's what takes precedence. And then I sit back and think, but I haven't handed in that piece of paper to the ministry, or some bozo down in Wellington's told me now we're cutting your bus run, or your water pump's blown and now you've got to go and find another $7,000 to get someone out here. You can't open your pool because your E. coli test is missed because you missed the testing, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and then I was like, now what? if I don't want to be principal, because I'd set a goal, I'm going to be principal of Auckland Grammar by the time I'm like in my 40s. So I remember saying something along those lines, I'll be principal of Auckland Grammar, because Auckland Grammar was held up as this big school, you know? And I was like, okay, what the hell am I going to do now? Because I've realized this is not what I want to do. And man, the backlash even with that I got from people. What are you doing? You're throwing away your career. You're making a mistake. You know, you could be going up and up and up and, you know, do 2 years here, do that. This is the best thing for you. You don't know me. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. You know, I reached that crossroads, but I had the bravery to still stick to some goals that I wanted to achieve. Teach overseas, teach in South Auckland. Those were 2 very clear goals. Achieved that, learned a lot, had a go at some entrepreneurial things in the Middle East, leadership programs, things like that. Had a go at those things. Then just got to the point where I remember walking into Ian's office out at MI and just being like, I'm not coming back next year. And he's like, what? What are you going to do? I was like, I don't know. I had enough. I think I'm going to open a gym. I'm just going to do it. I think the QBE piece in me is that I have always thought, okay, let's just get on with something, do something else. Let's move, you know? So I think that fear in me to go out and try new things exists for a little bit of a time. And the one thing I remember saying to myself is, I got a teaching degree. I'm leaving teaching. So what a waste of money I spend on my teaching. You know, I remember getting in that rhetoric in my head, ruminating on those sorts of thoughts. Your $58,000 student loan and blah, 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 blah. You know, you'll never, it's like an airplane pilot. They're only trained to fly airplanes. Airplane pilot can't go and fly a helicopter, you know, blah, blah, all this crap. When actually I didn't look at the value of the transferable skills that were available to me from working with multiple groups of people, dealing with 30 plus faces in front of me that didn't give a shit about my life. They just wanted to get the value, extract the value from me, as well as managing teams, as well as managing staff dynamics in major communities and being the hub of those things. All of that was laid out right in front of me. But I did get stuck thinking, oh, but just not for very long. And actually that's still quite prevalent in me today. That energy is sometimes hard to consume for many. You know, that, okay, cool, what are we going to do? Oh, I just need to mourn this a bit more. Oh, okay. You know, I struggle with that. I'm learning to validate feelings on that because I'm the problem solver. I'm the, you know, come on, let's go. What do we do? Come on. Yep, sure. You're hurting, you're painful, but let's move. When actually I need to learn to stop a bit and just be like, hey, man, feel your pain. Let's just sit in this a bit because not everyone's built like me to go like that. So I feel for the both, certainly. But now from chaos comes opportunity. Look at how many companies were started in the Great Depression, bro. Like so many Fortune 500 companies built out of the worst times in history and still alive and thriving. You know, look at the dot-com burst or look at the 2008 financial crisis. Go, you know, Stephen Schwartzman's book, Do What It Takes. He's the owner of Blackstone. Like, born out of horror times, you know, like Alan Mullally's book, American Icon. He comes in, he was headhunted, he was working for Boeing, and then planes flew into buildings in America and Boeing's shares dropped 82% overnight, gone. He navigates them through that. Then he gets approached by the Ford family from Bill Ford, the grandson of Henry Ford. Hey, we need you to come in. Oh, how well are you doing? Oh, next quarter we're going to lose $17 billion. Oh, you know, he comes in. And all he did, bro, is he applied what he did at Boeing into Ford. And he just believed in his systems and structures, and he just implemented those things. And he just carried the skills and lessons learned. Actually, he was better from here to here. And they go from $1 a share to $17 a share through his leadership. He didn't change much. He implemented a lot, but he just he's known as a master facilitator, Alan Mulally, and those are the lessons, dealing with one of the most powerful families in America, literally, the Ford family, navigating shareholders as well as their shares because they have a different share structure. Yep. So here we go, but just applying the same skills. And the bro that's rung through, like, the experiences that he has, if you look at it in the way that broadcasting has been in the past, those lessons are now gone forever. You will not be able to go back into that environment and learn the lessons that he got taught from that situation. There is no one new coming into that space that will learn the lessons that he has, the legacy that he gets to carry to help improve people. Isn't that a valuable asset?
Absolutely.
We get paid for the value we bring to the market. He's got a massive value, 20 years, I think I heard him say. Man, what can that do for people like ourselves who are passionate about kōrero, about speaking and upping the game and upping the ante? He would probably worked on projects where they thought it was going to be great, but then all of a sudden it blew up and it was amazing, and, you know, all those sorts of things.
I love it. That's what I said to him. Not that he asked me. I said, just take everything you've learned, take it to community.
Yes.
And that'll guide at least your next step. Because it's not that what you have is not valuable. It's just not valuable in the format it's delivered in. You know, you understand like nobody's business deadlines, high end, you know, same with my friend here, you know, years and years of delivering. And those skills are not actually being taught or relevant in many other social media spaces, you know, because it's like 24/7 world. Very interesting. Before I head into my final question, Vinny, any questions?
Yeah, sure, I do. Going back to the conversation before we had this podcast, the measurement of failure and how to deal with that failure. I'm currently in that journey of trying to accept failure, because I'm a strong island boy who, if you see me as a tank. So how do you take those knocks and being able to not only physically, because physically you're going to eject yourself or you're going to eat yourself through it, and I've done both. But how do you mentally recover from that failure? Because it sucks. I had my biggest failure in 2018. I started to lose friends. I burnt bridges, and I had no connection from then on. Going into 2020 with Will, I had no connections at that stage. So how do I get that feeling of I need to get my ass up and go?
You got to have a real strong North Star. Ikigai, the book, you know, there's a Japanese principle of purpose. I think that's really important. In my professional career, have never stopped serving children. I don't want to teach classes anymore. I've done that. But building environments for teachers to thrive is our North Star. Everything we're building today, our new products and things that we'll be launching, still will be in service of teachers so that children get the benefit. I have a very strong North Star, and unfortunately is tested every single day. We lose children in this country more than any OECD country. The violence rates that children suffer, death and violence and horror treatments by adults who continually let them down. Teachers included, man. I'm not going to be part of that. I have a very strong North Star. As I said earlier, I am an abuse survivor. I was missed. There must have been behaviors that I was exhibiting that people must have thought, that's off. I was missed. Why was I missed? The likelihood is that either A, teachers were not brave enough to bring it up, or B, they were too busy doing stuff that didn't matter. We can't teach you at a young age how to cope with failure if we're too busy. You know, that's the thing. A teacher's role, or any important person that's an adult, that's not your whānau, that's not your parents, their job and opportunity is to help you cope. And I started with it. I spoke about these people: Mrs. Cowley, Mrs. Kedian, Mrs. Dench, Mrs. Burgess, Mr. Stay, Mrs. Evers, Mr. Henry Smith, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Penne, Mr. Fenton. These are the people that stood up for me in my life, and that's my North Star. I want to be them for people. And when we do that, if we can start from a younger age, especially the sector that we're in early childhood, we can intervene far earlier and help them cope with failure and not tell them that you're all going to win a prize, but actually it's okay to lose games. It's okay that friend doesn't want to play with you today. It's okay that you've fallen off the bike and I'm going to help you get back on, but I'm not going to stop you from going on the bike. We're going to help young people achieve. I actually believe, this is an unpopular view, but I actually believe that you've gone through an education system that has removed that from people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have removed failure because you can go and get credits in any way possible. When you failed an exam, you failed the exam. Now, unfortunately, the legacy of that is a survival of the fittest. And my wife still goes on about school and not failing school, see English. She's one of the smartest people I know. I'm like, babe, let go. That was when you were 15. Like, let go. And unfortunately, that's the other legacy that we've continued. But if we don't help young people fail by building environments that teachers are thriving, they are not too wound up in all the other crap, that they can actually help young children cope and fail, and we can support their parents to help them encourage those conversations around taking turns and winning and losing and not getting what you want all the time and all that sort of stuff. We've got a far better opportunity to build environments for our communities, despite what government is in power at the time, to thrive and do great things. And I believe in the Pacifica and Māori people because we as a group of people are very connected spiritually to where we are. I have the privilege of being part of those communities. I have taught in them. I have lived in them. I have worked alongside them, and I still see, unfortunately, the lessons of not helping young people cope with failure from a very young age. Why do young men go out and kill themselves in cars? They haven't been taught to take risk at a very young age. We've removed it all. And they jump in a car and go and kill themselves, unfortunately, by going too quick. That's a good clear stat, right? Mm. So that's my answer. That's a long-term view. In a short-term view, we must be the 51% in success in our mind. You can be right up to 49%, right? Not even 50. You can't be 50-50 good and bad in your mind. If you're 50 good, 50 bad, the likelihood of human nature is to take us down the bad route. You've got to be at least 51%. And there are days where I'm 95, 98%. But there are days when I teeter on 51, if not lower.
Absolutely.
But it's about eliminating or dropping the probability of that through nourishing your own mind, serving those people that serve others, and actually just spending quality time with the people that really matter in your life. Your whānau, your ainga, all those in that space, your church communities, whatever it may be, and just continue, because it's the old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
I learned that the hard way. Going back to student council stuff, you might as well call it the Sahara Desert at this point in this bucket, because I had nothing. And I'm going to say this out loud, I wish you were my teacher, because at that stage, from primary up to intermediate, I went straight into adulthood, because from a primary standpoint, bullying was fine. I was like, look, I'm going to coast through. It's fine because all these teachers are helping me. But then I realized that you took the training wheels off. You go straight into intermediate. You got away. You got the 6 shades of shit kicked out of you, and that was it. And then you go into college and you're going, okay, do they think that I'm going to defend myself into college? Because now I'm in a different age of adulthood, where now these growing young adults have 3 different mindsets. It's, I'm going to be academic, I'm going to go through university, or I'm going to be academic, going through sports, or I'm just going to kick the shit out of everyone that's going to become near me, and that's it. I was that, like you said, I can't do 50-50.
You can't. And you actually got to be ruthless on that. You got to when that window comes into my mind, I'm ruthless to that part of me, because I recognise that voice that's in my head is not me. That's the 49 trying to creep up. It's trying to dominate. We all have that. We all have that entity in us, and you've got to be ruthless for it. I had to be disgusted with my behaviour. We spoke about violence and anger. You get to a point where you get disgusted with yourself. You might look at yourself and the damage you've caused, or the relationships you've lost, or the and look at yourself in the mirror. And if you're disgusted with yourself, it's an opportunity to change it. And that's the thing. I know that sounds harsh, but sometimes we have to be that internal critic for ourselves. In recognizing that the voice often that's in your head, where it's in being a husband, like I could carry the lessons. My parents had a crappy marriage, and I'm just protecting that. I have to protect that. I have to get that out of my head. And the other thing is, go on the offensive. That's one of the best things, is going on the offensive. I love watching the Warriors being on defense, but actually I love them being them on attack. That's what we love about the sport. We want to see tries scored, not 50 tackles being made. I love the nuances of that, but that's not what we all watch. We've got to go on the offensive, and going on the offensive means that I can wake up every morning. I can pick up a book instead of scrolling my phone. I can listen to some really empowering stuff instead of driving, even if it's a 10-minute drive. I can listen to a podcast. I can finish another 10 minutes of listening to the Bro Will and things like that, and empower myself in my life. I can make those choices, and that means being disgusted with the horrible voice, or defeating that sort of voice in your head, and also just taking what you have right in front of you today and just siphoning it down to an opportunity to win.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, before I wrap my round to question. I love the fact that this entire session between me and you, I literally feel like I'm holding your hand.
Yeah.
And I'm going through all these phases, because from the age from 0 to 5, I didn't worry the world. But from 5 to 12, I'm on defense, because I have zero offense. But then when you mentioned about anger being that energy, and I realized that from 13 to 18 angry, I was literally off the handles, because I couldn't. I had to pretend to be happy in order for others to be like, "Oh, he's fine, keep going." But I just wanted that anger to go through to my adulthood. But then not realizing that doing like courses and whatnot helped me through to that moment of offense meets chasing defense now.
Yes.
And then from the ages of 28 to 34, I can now flick it, because I'm meeting people like Will, I'm meeting people like yourself, I'm meeting people like Judy and Dan, where I don't need to constantly be on the defense. I didn't have to keep constantly, and Will can attest to it. It's me going up to Will going, am I allowed to do this? And why am I allowed to say this? Like, shh.
But the worst thing is when you're on the defense in your own internal mind. That's when you're really in trouble. I understand people being on defensive, like I said, you might meet new people, and your character might be like, "Ooh, I'll be on the defensive first," and that's actually my wife. I'm the like, yeah, man, I'm the excited puppy. Yeah, let's go, man. Let's go get a drink, whatever. Let's talk, let's yarn. Where she's like, oh, hang on. But once you get in, you're sweet. And that's all good. But when you're on defense in your own mind and you're constantly in defense mode, man, that's a hard fight to win every day. Far out. That is a very hard fight to win every day. So, and again, like, you've got to look at some of the actions and decisions you're making in your life. You've got to guard the gate of your mind. You've got to, we have a control over over what we consume, especially through social media and the news and Herald. Like, people that have notifications on from the Herald. When was the last time the Herald spiked up a push notification that said, little puppies born in Otara today, 7 beautiful blonde Labrador puppies? You'd never see it. We're talking about clickbait, right? It's negative. Why would I start my day with that? You know, it's all that stuff. And I think to that, you've got no chance if that's how you're starting everything.
Absolutely. We actually named Vinny's 51% and 49%. So 49% is called Vinay and 51% is called.
Yeah.
And I say, who am I speaking to today? Speaking to Vince today, Will. What's up, buddy? You know? And Vinay can come out.
Yep. Yes.
But he can just come out for little bits.
I think we have to acknowledge that as well. We there's still, I can't be the person. Sometimes I need the person that I am for lots of people to be there for me. And as a percentage through the years, that's gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But I also find, we were talking about your dad, who, would wake up early. See, I get that time to myself every day. I get that time to express gratitude for myself. Even in my own gratitude practices, I don't say I'm grateful for Courtney. I say I'm grateful for my role in Courtney's life of being a husband, being a business partner, being a friend, and I give gratitude to the role I have in the interactions. That's the real power, is acknowledging what you are actually. It's easier to say I'm grateful for Will, but actually I'm grateful that years ago I noticed this one little interaction, and we've had an energy that has not subsided.
Yeah.
In 20 plus years.
That's hilarious.
That's the gratitude, right?
Yeah.
I'm paying gratitude and homage to the connection. We talked about energy earlier. I'm paying homage and gratitude to the energy, bro. That's it. That's what we're here today. Right?
It's just, I'm laughing because of the story you remember of me.
Yeah. It was that that phone tone ringtone too. That shows how old we are.
Anyway, we'll leave that to everyone's imagination.
Yes.
Ray, I want to thank you for today. I feel like it's been a cool little session, not a podcast, a real cool session. Daniel, I haven't come to you. I'm sure you got many questions. We can talk about that. But I wanted to try something where I've got a little space at the bottom of my journal here.
Yes.
And I wondered if you'd write down a mentoring tip.
Yes.
That you can 100% vouch for, that if someone can implement that into their life, that it will help them.
Yep.
And so I don't know what that conjures up. And,
I've got one straight away.
And maybe you write it to just take a second down in that bottom bit, and then you can read it, and then we'll wrap this up and we'll carry on.
Follow fear. It's your path to success.
Awesome. Lovely way to end. Let's all have time to unpack, deconstruct, construct, and move forward. Live studio audience, Vinny, thank you. Dan, nice to have you.
Yeah, that's
and
nice.
Ray, thank you again, bro.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much.
Awesome.